Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Marital Problems 3934, and it says, am I the arsehole for telling my fiance to stop calling me by her late husband's name? I'm 34 years old. And my fiance is 31. Mon and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 1 year. She is also 4 months pregnant with our first child. She is a sweetheart, we get along very well, and I can see myself with her for a long time. Mon was married for 6 years before she met me, to a guy named Kyle. Kyle died in a car accident a few years ago. Although the relationship between Mon and me is great, she often calls me by her late husband's name. Things like, how was your day, Kyle? Or, can you grab that for me, Kyle? I'm almost certain it's accidental, and she always apologizes and corrects herself. But it still makes me uncomfortable. She even slipped and called me by his name during sex. Finally, I sat down with her and, upset, told her this was making me uncomfortable, and asked her to stop calling me that. She started crying, apologized, and told me that she still loves Kyle and always will. I don't know why. That really made me unhappy. At the end of that evening, her sister messaged me saying I was rude to her sister and that I'm an arsehole. A commenter asks OP, he died a few years ago and you've been dating for 4 years. When did he die? OP says he passed away 7 years ago. They were high school sweethearts and married early, at the age of 18. He died when they were both 24 years old. Commenter says grief is weird and hard. She may grieve Kyle for a long time. She has the right to. You also have the right to not be okay being called someone else's name. Has she seen a grief counselor? Have you considered couples therapy? The two of you need to sit down and talk about how you feel. She likely loves you very much and why her brain keeps defaulting to Kyle. It is, however, also likely that she has not properly dealt with her grief. She will need compassion and time. She also needs to understand that you are her partner and Kyle is not. Your feelings should matter to her, and it is not unreasonable to ask her to make a concentrated effort to get your name right. Regardless, therapy. You should both probably go. OP quotes saying has she seen a grief counselor and says yes, she did the first 3 years after his death, and says, have you considered couples therapy? OP says yes, but at the moment I haven't found any. And I think the comments pretty much said it all there, that therapy needs to be included somewhere along the lines here because, you know, as I always say when we cover grief in stories, it doesn't have an expiration date. And people deal with grief in different ways as long as it's not harming you in any way. But in this situation, it's clearly harming your relationship. So something needs to be done here. I mean, you're together with her for 4 years. She's pregnant with their child and you know, she's still calling him Kyle frequently that he feels he needs to address it to the point where it's actually affecting their relationship. So, you know, clearly that needs some sort of attention. And I feel the sister jumping in to call him rude feels unfair. I think it's perfectly reasonable boundary to not want to be called another man's name, especially during, you know, intimate moments. And one part that I found particularly concerning in the last paragraph is when, you know, you sat down, you talked to her, she's crying and upset, and you told her that was making you uncomfortable. And she started crying and apologized herself, but then said that she still loves Kyle and always will, which, you know, is understandable. That was her husband. But the way it comes across, and I know it's always difficult because, you know, it's text format that we're reading here and a very small piece of their lives, but it just came across as like, you know, almost like it was prioritizing her connection to Kyle over OP's feelings. But OP came in with her update and said, since that day, Mon and I have been in couples therapy, and she has returned to the first therapist who treated her during the first 3 years of her grief. Obviously, it hasn't been easy. Our daughter was born a month ago and Mon is still going through a lot, which makes taking care of a baby in the middle of all this even more complicated. Luckily, our parents are helping us with the baby. We've decided to postpone the wedding indefinitely. A lot has come up in therapy, such as finding out that Mon cries for Kyle when I'm not around. This can happen monthly, 3 times a month, or not at all. She also admitted that she doesn't feel comfortable talking deeply with me about it because she thinks I would get upset, which is nonsense considering I've heard stories about him before and never showed any upset. Some of her statements in therapy, like, "I will never love anyone like I loved him," hurt me a lot. I feel more and more that this relationship is doomed to failure. However, this doesn't mean I'm giving up. I really love her, but I'm not extremely optimistic. I'm trying to work out as much as possible on the relationship, mainly for the sake of our daughter. 6 months after that update, Opie comes in and says, "So, a lot has changed. Not everything has been easy, but I think in a way we're finding a new balance. Therapy has helped us a lot, both individually for her and as a couple. Mon is better at separating the past from the present, and she no longer calls me Kyle by mistake. We've been able to talk more openly. She feels more comfortable discussing the past and her feelings in depth. Our daughter is growing up so fast, and I can't imagine going through all this without our family support. As for the marriage, it's still on pause. It's something we want at the right time. I can really see that she's putting in a lot of effort. She's been talking a lot with her sister, and we go out with her and her boyfriend quite often. My sister-in-law has always been somewhat protective of her and is genuinely concerned about her improvement. Aside from the usual small arguments, I'm managing to stay optimistic about the future. Some of the comments on my first post helped me a lot in the early stages, and I'm really grateful. Wow. Now, as you know, if you've been here for a while, I'm big on grief and people grieving in different ways, like I said previously. I totally understand it being complex, etc. But I got Opie's feelings in this as well, that, he felt that the relationship could be doomed, because hearing the line, "I will never love anyone like I loved him," I'm not sure I'd be able to handle that myself, if in all honesty. I mean, you're competing with a memory that can never disappoint or argue or anything like that, so it's almost an impossible situation. But like I said, I do understand grief as well, but for me personally, I'd struggle with that, really. And the updates were kind of like, I don't know what's the right word, cautiously moving in the right direction. Grief isn't going to vanish, it's not going to disappear instantly or anything like that, but Mon seems to be processing it in a healthier sort of way. But what do you guys make of this situation? Would you be able to deal with it? If you heard that line of "I will never love anyone like I loved him," how would you feel about that? How would that make you feel? Would you be able to move past it with therapy, etc., the path that they're going down? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from It's Mine 22. It says, "Me, 23 male, with my ex, I guess 21 female, together 5 years. She left and is now pregnant. Obviously, high school sweethearts, and I thought we were well on our way to being married and have a family together. In fact, we were engaged when all this shit went down, and at the time, I was the happiest guy in the world. One day out of the blue, without warning, or even a small suspicion on my part, she tells me she had to talk to me, and that I wasn't going to like what she had to say, but she had to say it. She spent about 15 minutes crying and telling me that she would love me forever, but that she felt that we had gotten together too young, and she needed to be single for a while. Of course, this confused the shit out of me. What does that mean? So I made her explain to me what she meant. She gave a whole list of bullshit things about not wanting to have to be responsible for my happiness, wanted to go places without having to worry about me, and other shit that just made me more confused. I told her that she could do any of that right there and right then, and we didn't have to break up for it. I offered to give her space, whatever she needed. Nothing was moving her, so it finally dawned on me to ask her, was this really about wanting to date and see other people? She denied that there was anyone she wanted to date or see, but ultimately, yes, she thought it was what she wanted to do. As you can imagine, I was broken by this. She tried to tell me she loved me again, and I just told her to keep it to her fucking self. She then said she wanted to know if I was going to be okay, and I told her that was no longer any of her concern, and walked out the door. She tried calling me and sent several texts, but I just deleted them without reading and deleted her on everything. I would love to tell you I was all manly and uncaring about it, but I sunk into a deep depression. That was 3 months ago, and I have not seen or spoken to her since. That is until yesterday. As I pull into the driveway of my house, she gets out of a car that is parked across the street and starts walking towards me. I don't really look at her and start walking in the house because I have nothing to say to her. But she yells out my name, so I stop and just shoot back with, "What?" I whip around and there she stands, and she is very obviously pregnant. I don't know what to say to her, so I just stand there. She said she's sorry for sneak attacking me, but she'd been trying to get a hold of me for quite some time, and she knew I had blocked her, but that she had to talk with me. I'm not happy to see her. I'm really not happy to see a woman I loved my entire life pregnant with some other guy's kid, and I just tell her that we really didn't have anything to talk about, and I turned to go inside. She yells out that the baby was mine, which of course stops me dead in my tracks. Long story short, she said she is 4 months pregnant and that she was about 1 month pregnant at the time she broke up with me, but did not know it. She said she didn't really even know or suspect she was pregnant till the 2nd month, which she missed her period but had conflicting home pregnancy tests. However, she went to the clinic to get tested there, and it was confirmed she was pregnant. She said she spent the next month trying to convince herself to have an abortion but just could not do it. She begged me to let her come in and talk with me. I won't lie, I was probably crueler than I should have been. I told her that I didn't believe that it was mine, that she wanted to go fuck other guys, and that she got knocked up by some guy who wanted nothing to do with her, so she came running to me hoping I would pretend to be this kid's daddy. She of course started crying and said that she deserved that, but said that she never even went out with anyone else. I'll try and summarize. This as it is already very long. She said she never went out with anyone else, she never got the chance, and that she was totally honest that she had no one in mind. She said that she believes that being pregnant made her hormonal, and that made her very impulsive, and that the sudden urge to break up with me was just that, a sudden urge. She hadn't been thinking about it. She asked me if I read any of her texts at all. I told her I did not, and said if I would have read them the next day, I would have seen her telling me that she wanted to talk, to take it back, and knew that breaking up was wrong. Here is where I stand right now after hours and hours of talking with her. My heart was shattered. There is part of me that just wants to so badly throw away all of my doubts and fears and just take her in and be both a husband and father. But as much as I want this, I will not be a father to a child I did not create with a woman who left me to fuck other men. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be a stepdad or something, but I will not do this with someone who knowingly broke my heart. I've demanded a paternity test. Neither of us have a fucking clue how to do this, but she's going to ask her obgyn at her next meeting. I don't know if I have to wait till the baby is born or what, but this is something I have to have done for my own peace of mind. She said she is fine with this as there is zero doubt in her mind that it is mine, and she claims to have never been with anyone else. So here are my questions. 1. Let's assume the child is mine. Where do I go from here? She gave me a letter she wrote when we were separated, and it is dated about a month ago, and in it she writes about deep regret about hurting me, how much she loved me, and how this was the biggest mistake of her life. 2. How do I believe her that she hasn't been with anyone else since she left me? Even if the child is mine, that doesn't mean she didn't have sex with someone else. I know it may make me an asshole, but if that's the case, I don't want her back. 3. Obviously, if the child is not mine, this all becomes a non-issue because that is an absolute no for me beyond a shadow of a doubt. 4. What do I do with all this hurt and anger? I want to love my child, assuming it's mine, and as long as everything she says is true, I think I want to love her again as well. But I've had 3 months of sleepless nights, fits of rage, and soul-crushing depression. She told me she wants to do whatever it takes to make this work for us. She has offered to pay for couples counseling and is offering any type of transparency I want. Right now my head is spinning. 4 months ago I would have loved to have been a father and make this woman my wife. Now I still have those emotions, however, they're not intermixed with pain and hurt. Any advice will be greatly appreciated. Edit. There are so many responses that I can't really get to them all, so I kind of want to make one addition here in hopes of answering most of this. I read what you were all saying and it was loud and clear that I have issues. I was completely ignorant about hormonal issues, however. I've read up a little on it today, and I see this is very possible. Please understand when I wrote this all, I'd just gotten done speaking with her, and my emotions were very raw and I was very confused. I love her with all my heart, I know that. I knew that last night. The reason I can't answer all your questions is because I'm on my way to talk with her. I can't let this go. I've been given a second chance with her, and that is all I want. I'm still going to want a paternity test for my own peace of mind. I hope she can understand that, even though I know this is going to hurt her feelings. I think I'm just going to have to take a leap of faith and trust everything she said about it being her hormones, and how she never really wanted this. I'm sorry to anyone I offended because I came across as a grade A douchebag. So commenter says to OP, my money's on the baby being yours. If you guys have only been broken up 3 months and she's already visibly pregnant to the extent that you could tell as soon as you saw her. It's likely she conceived while you two were still together. I mean, for sure, get the paternity test and don't blindly believe her, but that inclines me to believe she's telling the truth. I think jumping to the she's undoubtedly a liar and a cheat in these situations is a bit misguided. Secondly, get it out your head that people need a valid reason to break up. People can break up for whatever reason they want, even in a 5-year relationship. I think your inability to recognize and respect this has led you to brush aside her bullshit reasons and fixate on sleeping with other people thing. Thirdly, for people in serious relationships at your age, especially when they've been in those relationships since high school, it is very common to want to break up for this reason. I'm in that age group and know many people who did the same thing, and it's not always about sleeping with other people. Often it's just about being independent. For example, being able to make major life decisions without having to take another person's future into account. Surely you can empathize with that feeling of pressure. I know you've been hurt, but I think you're a little blinded by your hurt right now. Opie responds saying, well, you'll have to forgive me if after 5 years and zero clue this was going to happen, that I questioned the motives and didn't just blankly accept the reasoning. Hey, I freely admit it's my only relationship as well, and I was deeply in love, so to be blindsided one day, out of the blue like that, kind of hit hard. Did I do a good job of handling things? I don't know. Have you ever had a fiance? Remember when we were more than just a boyfriend and girlfriend, break up with you after a 5-year relationship with no warning? If so, please tell me how you just accepted it in stride and moved on. What Now says, you're not inhuman. You're a bitter, insecure, angry, sad, disrespectful, selfish and ignorant person who's going to have a miserable life with that attitude. Opie says, well, at least I'm not one of the Inhumans. Okay, sorry, that was my bad attempt at humor. I actually was a comic book nerd, so I envisioned me being Black Bolt for a while. Let me address this one at a time, and please understand that I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just trying to be honest about where my head is. Although today I feel a hell of a lot better than I did last night when I first typed this. Bitter. Probably fair to say that. Insecure, sure, but to my defense, my entire self-esteem was trampled on, so while I know it doesn't make it right, it's just how I coped with the incident. I have low self-esteem issues to begin with, and this just sent me over the edge. If I need professional help with anything, it's probably this. Angry. Look, I came across when I posted this because it was a flurry of emotions, and that was how I felt when I typed it. However, to be blunt, I've spent more times the past 3 months crying than doing anything else. I think my reactions were self-preservation, which including trying to make myself angry because it felt better to be angry than sad. Sad? See above. Disrespectful. The only part I would agree to this would be me telling her that I didn't believe it was mine. Other than that, I don't feel like I've been that. I've read this sub before, and the first response I see almost universally is when you break up, you go no contact. So that is what I did. Selfish. Well, yeah. And in this case, I'm not even apologizing for it. Of course, it was selfish of me to have all of these feelings and emotions because it was happening to me and nobody else. How else is anyone supposed to act when dealing with their own emotions? I'm no more selfish than she would have been if she were dumping me for her reasons, and that wouldn't have made her wrong for being selfish either. Ignorant? Well, obviously when it came to the hormones I was. However, I have read up on it a little today, so I now see that this wasn't just an excuse. All in all, I made somewhat of a bad showing of myself earlier today. I'm on my way to see her now, and we will talk more. So OP came back in with her update and said, hello everybody. I wanted to stop by and give everyone a little bit of an update on what has transpired since the weekend. After talking with you guys and reading, I found out that pregnant hormones can really mess with some people's minds. I went to the apartment where she is staying with a friend, and the friend was nice enough to leave so she and I could have a long, emotional talk. I'll spare you the lengths and depths of our conversation, but needless to say it was long, painful, and filled with crying, mostly by me shamefully. I totally broke down. Any and all pretense of being strong and trying not to let anything bother me was just washed away in a matter of moments by her. She makes me very vulnerable, and while I don't like that a lot, I will say that once I got it all off my chest, I felt like $1,000,000. She was very patient, very kind, and very loving. This was the girl who I've known all of these years. From her end, she stated that she never went out with anyone else. She did have 2 guys who knew we were broken up try and ask her out, but she told the first one she wasn't ready, and by the time the second one asked her, she knew she was pregnant. After hours of talking, we ended up falling into each other's arms, and by this time, her roommate came back because she had to go to bed to go to work. So she came home with me to continue talking. We ended up making love all weekend. Which at first I thought I'd be grossed out, to be honest with you, because I've never even thought about pregnant sex before. I would not even considered if I thought for 1 second the kid wasn't mine. That I guess is the uptake to all of this. I now believe her 100%, and I'll tell you why. She's insisting that we do a paternity test. If she wasn't sure, she'd probably not want to go through with it, but she says that she's never been with anyone else, and I believe her. So yesterday she had a pre-existing Obgyn appointment, and she set it up so I could go with her. Here is what is so cool. Her doctor is a dude who can't be more than 35 or so, and he was the coolest motherfucker I've ever talked to. I mean, in real life, if I met the guy away from there, he would have been a bro of the first order. We went and did the exam, and I got to see the baby on the scope. Man, it hit home that I'm going to be a daddy at that point. After he did the exam with her, he asked her now if it'd be a good time to talk, and she said yes. I had no idea what was going on, but she said she wanted him to talk with me and that it was her idea. She left and the doctor and I had a chat. He said my girlfriend had spoken with him about everything over a month ago, and while he wouldn't talk about a medical condition exactly, he wanted me to know the facts about female hormones and how it can impact women. Like I said, coolest guy ever. He broke it down so I could understand it. He also said that she had spoken to him yesterday about paternity testing and that they were going to set up for next week. He said for both of our peace of minds, we should just go ahead and do it. He also spoke for a few minutes with me about how I was feeling and even shared a story about how he and his wife nearly separated over a pregnancy-related issue. I left that day filled 100% confident that this is a relationship I want to work to have. Honestly now think she just had a crisis of bent-up frustrations and hormones and emotions, and she didn't even know why she was having them. I just got done moving her stuff back to my house an hour ago. When she gets off work tonight, we're going to embark on our journey to make this work. I'm not going to rush things because either of us may have built up emotions that we don't even know yet, but have a ring already, and if all goes well for a month or two, I'm going to ask her to marry me. What? I know both of our families would prefer us to be married if we're going to have a child. Which brings me to my next point. Now I get to tell my parents they're going to be grandparents, which also leads me to have to tell them we're back together. This should be fun. Anyway, thank you all so very much for helping set me straight. I wanted to believe her, but did not believe the hormone thing. Thanks to some of your stories, I now know the truth. And there was a mix of comments below this one about lots of people talking about happy ending, other people saying, well, this is going to end well. /sarcasm. It was the bit that caught me out was OP saying, I'm not going to rush things because, you got built up emotions, all that sort of stuff. But the sentence before that was, I'm just done moving her stuff back into my house. And the sentence after that was, you got the ring already and you're going to ask her to marry you. It's like, oh, dearie me. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being there today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.